Ladies and gentlemen, this podcast, truly one of the most unusual ever recorded, contains dribble, slang, and frank discussion of subject matter which under no circumstances should be heard by small children, persons with a heart condition, or anyone who is upset easily. If you are such a person, or if you're the parent of a very small child in the room, we urge you to switch off your streaming device now.
Hey, Jen, what up, girl?
Hey, Cam. Not much. What about you?
Oh, I can't even remember.
Living the dream each and every day, right?
Yeah. I guess we did. This isn't our episode. This is my life right now. This isn't our episode back from Christmas, right? We already did one. That was you, right?
We already did one. Yeah.
Okay.
I did one last week on, I can't even remember who it was.
Tia Sharp.
Tia Sharp, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now I remember.
Sweet
I just
little
couldn't
Tia
remember.
Sharp.
I could not remember. Sorry. It's my life right now. You know
It's
what
okay.
I'm saying? So
when you get as old as you are, you do have
it's true, Jen.
Alzheimer's.
It's true.
You lose your thought. Mhm. So what you got for us today?
Well, Jen, let me just say, I was thinking about this morning. I would like to think that in the midst of tragedy, I would handle myself with grace and honor and, try to, I don't want to say make the best out of it, but try to see some goodness even in the dark. Does that make sense?
Is this while the tragedy is happening
Or
after it's happened?
She's my hero.
Okay.
She's my new best friend, but we're going to meet her in a minute. But she's just like one of those people where you think, wow, I would hope that I would handle myself with as much grace and as much, trying to get something good out of something horrible that happened.
Evil.
Yes. Okay. Here we go. You ready? Jen, what is really big here in the Midwest in the fall?
Meth labs.
Okay, besides that. But that's a year-round thing, by the way.
Pumpkin patches, fall festivals.
Think bigger scale. Fall, Jeffco, And don't say meth labs
Teeth cleaning?
again.
No, I don't know.
Hunting.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I thought you'd take that away, but that's okay. So anyway, today we are going to stay in the Midwest, and we're going to venture to southern Ohio. Now, it's April 1st, 1989, and a man named Donald Welling, who is 35 years old, is, he's out doing what he did on a lot of weekend mornings when, you're not working. You go take a jog or a run. I mean, we don't, but some people do.
Oh, God, no.
On the really pretty back roads in Ohio. The Midwest is very pretty. I will give it that. So the peaceful moments of him out there enjoying his run were shattered as a long shot rang out and broke the air. The rifle bullet struck the very center of his heart, killing him instantly.
Oh, damn.
It's just 19 months later when on November 10th, 1990, 21-year-old Jamie Paxton decided to go out and do some bow hunting with this crossbow. And this is what I referred to earlier, which is so popular in the Midwest. And I guess it's popular everywhere. I don't know. It's huge here, though. That's what we grew up with. So he finds a nice area off of State Route 9, parks his car, and he gets out to go for a walk, kind of take a look around, see, what's going on out there, kind of get a feel for the land. Now, he leaves his weapon in his truck. As Jamie's strolling along, he's kind of lost in thought, looking for whatever you're looking for out there in the woods. He didn't realize a man had pulled up and parked near his car. Again, shots rang out. Jamie fell to the ground after being struck 3 times from a rifle. Since there were 3 shots this time, officials knew that this was not an accident, but something much more sinister. And also, it's bow season, not rifle season, but nonetheless. At first, I think that, there are several hunting accidents that happen during hunting season. And I think that they attributed the first one to that, just a stray bullet. But this one with 3 shots directly hitting him, it's no accident.
No, and especially if he was going out hunting, depending on what he would be in the bright orange.
Mm-hmm.
He would.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
And whereas the jogger would be,
right.
he was attacked.
Right. The gunman would leave no evidence and leave no witnesses. Police get together, they dive in, they immediately go talk to Jamie's friends and family, and it becomes apparent that Jamie was really well liked by everyone that knew him. He had no enemies, and he's, 21 years old. He's a baby. He's young. With no evidence, no witnesses, no motive, and not even a theory, authorities are stumped. Jamie Paxton's mother, Jean Paxton, was beyond devastated. But, she's not just going to sit by and wait until officers locate her son's killer. Now, this is my hero, and I'm telling you, it gives me chills when I think about this lady. She's still grieving for her son, and, everybody has a way of healing and things that they do, and I'm sure that this was probably part of that to help her heal, but also get some answers. Instead of just sitting by, she gets, she kicks into action. So Jean Paxton begins a letter writing campaign, and she sends letters to the killer via the Martin's Ferry Times Leader newspaper. So she starts
good for her.
Publishing. Just wait. I love this lady. She starts publishing, I guess you would call that an open letter, correct? To the killer. And this
it wouldn't be misconnections, I'm sure.
No.
But it would be an open letter.
No, it would not. And let me just say also that make sure you check our sources, because I did quote her directly and I lifted that from another source. And I want to make sure I did not, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Plagiarizing.
Yes. And it's just that I wanted it in her words because of how eloquent she spoke and all that stuff. Here's her letter. To the murderer, or murderers, of my son Jamie. Would it be easier for you if I wrote words of hate? I can't, because I don't feel hate. I feel deep sorrow at losing my son. You took a light from my life, November 10th, and left me with many days of darkness. Have you thought of your own death? Unless you confess your sins and ask for God's forgiveness, you will face the fire and fury of hell. When you are caught, I will be sorry for your family. They will have to carry the burden of your guilt all their lives.
Wow. That makes me feel guilty, and I didn't do anything.
Right? I mean, it's true, though.
But you have to wonder, too, will that affect a cold-blooded murderer?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Jen. Just perfect segue there for me, girl.
And, well, thank you. And you didn't even have to write that out in script form.
I didn't either.
I thought of that all by my little lonesome.
Sometimes you're smart. Just don't sing, Jen. People
Sometimes.
don't like it. People don't like it when we sing it.
Oh, you have no idea what people don't like.
On that little interlude that you gave me, investigators had told Jean Paxton that a man who was cruel enough to murder in cold blood probably would not have any sense of decency to respond or even feel remorse at what he had done. Jean, I think, like I said, I think this was sort of a method of healing and making her feel a little bit better too. Maybe she would get a response, maybe she wouldn't. So in October of 1991, she wrote again and said this. It's been nearly a year since you killed my son. Has your life changed in the past 11 months? Our family hasn't lived since last November 10th. We are surviving one day at a time. There is one question on our minds all day long and every time we wake up at night. We want to know why Jamie was killed. Jean's plan finally worked. The killer responded and sent a letter not just to the paper, but sent letters to Sheriff McCourt as well as the Paxtons.
Oh, wow.
Right? So Jamie Paxton's killer responds with the following. I am the murderer of Jamie Paxton. Jamie Paxton was a complete stranger to me. I never saw him before in my life, and he never said a word to me that Saturday. Paxton was killed because of an irresponsible compulsion that has taken over my life. I knew when I left my house that day that someone would die by my hand. I just didn't know who or where. Technically, I meet the definition of a serial killer, but I'm an average-looking person with a family, job, and home just like yourself. Something in my head causes me to turn into a merciless killer with no conscience. To the Paxtons, you deserve to know the details. I was very drunk, and a voice inside my head said, do it. I stopped my car behind Jamie's and got out. Jamie started walking very slowly down the hill toward a road. He appeared to be looking past me or something in the distance. I raised my rifle to my shoulder and lined him up in the sights. It took at least 5 seconds to take careful aim. My first shot was off a little and hit him in the right chest. He groaned and went down. I wanted to make sure it was finished, so I fired a second shot aimed halfway between his hip and shoulder. He was crawling around on the ground. I jerked the shot and hit him in the knee. He raised his head and groaned again. My third shot also missed and hit him in the butt. He never moved again. 5 minutes after I shot Paxton, I was drinking a beer and had blocked out all of the thoughts of what I had just done in my mind. I thought no more of shooting Paxton than shooting a bottle at the dump. I know you hate my guts, and rightfully so. I think about Jamie every hour of the day, as I'm sure you do. Don't feel bad about not solving this case. You could intervene till doomsday, everyone that Jamie Paxton ever met in his life, and you wouldn't have a clue to my identity. With no motive, no weapon, and no witnesses, you could not possibly solve this crime. The letter was signed, the murderer of Jamie Paxton.
Boy.
Let me just say, at first you're kind of like, you read that letter and you think, my God. Well, later on, you're going to see part of this killer's personality is the attention-seeking aspect, right? And that'll come out in something he does a little bit later. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I don't think I could handle hearing all that, what happened to my child like that, about how he reacted to being shot. It would kill me. And to know that he was alone when that happened, no, it would devastate me.
The police, with Gene's determination, have now become aware that there is a nameless killer out there, and sadly, he would strike again before they could locate him. On Saturday, March 14th, 1992, 49-year-old Claude Hawkins had just finished up at his midnight shift at work and decided to go fishing at one of his favorite spots, which is called Will's Creek Dam. I love the Midwest. Will's Creek Dam. Not Jen's Creek Dam, not Cam's Creek Dam, but Will's Creek Dam.
Or damn, that's Will's Creek.
Okay. Will's Creek Dam is located outside of Belmont, Ohio. Claude, a married man and father of 4, would be found dead a short while later, shot in the back at close range. This murder changed things a bit as it took place on federal land, which now means the FBI. Yep. Can be.
They're coming along.
Yeah, they're getting on the fast track to help solve this. The FBI was convinced that Hawkins' murder was not a solitary event, just because of the way it was connected. On March 26th, 1992, in New Philadelphia, which is just south of Canton, Ohio.
I was going to say of Old Philadelphia.
And that was his New Philadelphia. Officers from 4 counties, the Ohio Division of Wildlife, and the FBI all gathered to compare notes. Now, as the meeting progressed, the assembled officers discovered that the earliest of possible related homicides occurred on April 1st, 1989, and that would turn out to be Donald Welling. Now, that's the little fellow that was jogging at the beginning of the pod. Jamie Paxton's murder was also brought up, and a link seemed apparent. Investigators concluded that the killer had been inactive for 19 months before Paxton's murder in Belmont.
Then I'm assuming he was either in jail or out of town or something.
There was something else, Jen. Investigators discovered that just 18 days after Jamie's murder on November 28th, 1990, there had been another murder in Duxbury, Massachusetts. Kevin Loring, a married father of 3 children, had been killed by a single gunshot wound to the face when he was deer hunting.
Ooh.
The killing happened in Muskingum County. The murder of Loring had been deemed a hunting accident, but now they knew he was a victim of a serial killer stalking southern Ohio. Sadly, Loring would not be the last victim. April 5th, 1992, Gary Bradley, a 44-year-old steelworker with a wife and 3 children from Williamstown, West Virginia, had been shot in the back while fishing in Noble County, which is adjacent to Belmont County. So this fellow was from Virginia, but had come up to Ohio to hunt, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so he's, again, Noble County, a different county. Now, Jen, there was one survivor, and it's amazing because I would think back and think if you were the one person that escaped a serial killer, I don't know, you just have to count your lucky stars every day. Mm-hmm. Larry Euler of Barnhill, Ohio, was that very lucky guy. He was shot at, but managed to escape unharmed. He was the only one that was known to have been, I guess, a potential victim of this serial killer and escape. Survive.
Oh, wow. So the serial killer must have drank a little bit too many beers to get a good shot.
Right. Yeah. In early May, a task force was established and met in the FBI field office in Columbus, where officers from each of the 5 counties where a victim was killed presented details of their cases. I mean, 5 people, 5 different counties.
Right.
FBI's Behavioral Science Unit in Quantico, Virginia, formed a profile of the killer, and they deemed that he was a white male over 30 years old. He was a gun enthusiast, avid hunter, and owned at least several weapons. The killer would have above average intelligence, but was introverted and without many friends. He would tend to resolve personal problems in a cowardly fashion. He might have a drinking problem and engage in obscene telephone calls, arson fire, and vandalism by shooting out windows or tires of vehicles. He would likely take sadistic delight in mutilating and killing animals of all sorts. Stressful events would trigger his criminal episodes, which usually would be committed while he was drunk. He lived within easy driving distance of all of the killing spots. And let me just say, for the record, when I read that, obscene telephone calls, I guess nobody can even do those anymore, can they?
I don't think so. That would, unless you have a blocked phone number or something like that, maybe? I don't know.
All a little chancy, you know what I mean? The profilers added something that was quite thought-provoking, shall we say. They had said that if it's pleasurable for this person to kill dogs and cats at random, the much better prey is humans. They're a bigger trophy. People enjoy killing. Let's face it, that's why they do it.
Wow. Now, see, I would have thought, as you were reading off the profilers list, I'm like, all that, duh, no shit. You know what I mean?
Well, I was thinking it sounds like every Midwest person ever.
Exactly.
Right?
But that whole arson thing kind of threw me off. You know what I mean?
That's one of the signs, apparently.
I guess.
Apparently.
I don't know.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Authorities brought in 100 possible suspects, talked to all of them, and they were all eventually ruled out and, let go. So they're kind of at a standstill. They don't really know who they're looking for. I guess even the FBI kind of gave them what to look for. But like you and I just said, that is almost every person in the Midwest.
Right.
So on July 30th, 1992, it would have been Jamie's 23rd birthday. Jean Paxton sent another letter to the paper. She described, and this is heartbreaking, she described how she baked her son's favorite cake that day, but Jamie wasn't there to enjoy it. There's a small child in our family whose biggest worry was who's going to blow out the candles on Jamie's cake. The next time there's a birthday party in your family, I hope you think of the cake on our table and know you are the reason Jamie wasn't there to blow out the candles. Isn't that sad? That breaks my heart. In August, investigators concluded that the killer was not going to risk sending in another letter himself, right? And decided to go public. They're going to change up the way that they were going at this. In a press release to the media, they explained that they suspected a serial killer was hunting outdoorsmen in a loose cluster of eastern Ohio counties. The headline of the Saturday, August 22nd edition of the Plain Dealer read, "Slayings linked in rural Ohio." The article stated that 5 sportsmen had been murdered, and investigators suspected a single serial sniper in all of their deaths. The paper also included a copy of the FBI's suspect profile, which we read earlier. The media push worked, and on August 26, 1992, a call came into the Tuscarawas sheriff's officer from a 43-year-old man named Richard Fry. Now, Richard Fry tells officers that he thinks he may know someone that could be interviewed. Fry was a little bit hesitant to come into the station. Talk about paranoid, because, who wouldn't be, right? They set up a meeting time and a place, and Fry agreed to go meet them. Once he's there, he tells officers about a friend he knew from high school. The man's name was Tom Dillon. And Fry said that they used to go around and shoot road signs and do dumb things teenagers do and did, and still do, for that matter.
Right.
And they both loved guns. They were big gun enthusiasts. I was going to say gun enthusiasts. They'd often go hunting together. Fry said it was all pretty normal stuff, but one day it changed. He tells officers that they went to a dump site and there were some wild dogs there, and Dylan shot them. Now, Fry didn't think much about this because, he kind of, in his head, kind of reasoned it out. They're wild dogs. They don't belong to anybody. Heck, they could be carrying diseases, rabies, whatever. But then he said Thomas Dillon started shooting dogs, as in dogs he saw, like pets, pet dogs, dogs in fields, dogs on the side of the road, dogs in front of their owner's house. Fry said that Dillon was fascinated by famous serial killers and would often talk about them nonstop as well. But it was one incident that made Fry no longer talk to Dillon. He tells investigators that one day Tom pulled over and pulled out a gun and started shooting at a farmer. When Fry flipped out on him, Dillon said, well, the farmer was too far away to hit with my pistol, right? As if he's reasoning it.
And he didn't go to the police then?
Fry said even he saw him out and about, he wouldn't even wave at him. So Fry just dropped him like a hot potato and had nothing else to do with him.
Yeah,
No, he did not go to the police. Fry said that he ran into him much later in about 1986, where the two finally spoke. This is chilling a little bit, I think. I mean, come on. They chatted for a bit, and then Dillon said he had stopped killing animals, so I guess we can be friends again.
Oh, no.
Fact that you just said that, I think that's going to be a hard no for me, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, but no thank you. Lose my number.
Thank you. Thomas Dillon then invited his old friend, Fry, to come with him to a gun show in Cleveland, and Fry went. Fry said during the trip, Dillon made several comments about Ted Bundy and how he got away with murder for so long, how he actually was able to get away. The things that he did, very detailed things that he did that allowed him to get away. Dillon then asked Fry, do you think I've ever killed somebody? Fry said, no, I just don't think so. To which Dillon replied, that just proves you don't know me very well.
Jesus.
That's, again, where I'd be like, oh, shoot, I got to get a soda at the 7-Eleven. Can you pull over? And I would see myself
Jump out
out.
Of the car. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. Fry ended the interview with police by telling them that Dillon was currently living with his family, his wife, and his son in Magnolia, which happened to be about an hour and a half from where Jamie Paxton lived. So who is Tom Dillon, you're asking, Jen? Right?
I was asking that. Hey, Cam, who is Tom Dillon?
I'm glad you asked. Thomas Lee Dillon was born in Canton, Ohio on July 9th, 1950. Dillon was just 15 months old when his father died from Hodgkin's disease, and he was left to be raised by his mother, who Dillon would later say that he had no fond memories of his mother. She never hugged him, she never kissed him, and never told him that she loved him. Yes, she wasn't. So many of these killers
doesn't make you a killer, though.
Issue, right?
Oh, a lot of them do.
Classmates would say that Dillon was a loner and seemed to be different from the rest of the students. Dillon began to love hunting from a very young age, but it was more than that. He liked to kill, just to kill. He enjoyed seeing animals suffer. In fact, as a teen, he kept a calendar with dates and the type of animal he'd killed. So he had a calendar, almost like a kill calendar, kill sheet, I guess, saying what kind it was when he killed it, right?
Kind of like his trophy, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. His little
kill calendar, I guess, yeah. Tom Dillon attended Kent State University's Stark campus and later Ohio State University. He was known to hang out with friends, get drunk, and bet you didn't see this coming. Pull out a gun and shoot at things, knocking out windows on buildings or just shooting into the air. Nothing says fun like a little drunk gunplay. Mm-hmm.
Little fun party games, yeah.
Mm-hmm. In 1972, Dillon graduated from Ohio State and went to work for Canton Water Department as a draftsman. In 1978, he would marry his wife, who was a nurse. She was actually working as a nurse at that time. Still, he kept the death calendar. Dillon would brag to friends that he was now over 500 deaths on his calendar. Now, it's also at about this time, this is so unnerving, that neighbors would start to complain to the police that he was killing their pets. Like they knew he was killing their pets, the ones that they loved, that live with them, right? His friends would say he was a terrible shot and didn't follow the rules of being a good hunter. And I was like, well, I don't even understand what that means. And then I had to ask my students because, where we live,
hunters.
it's very... Yes, exactly. He would kill because he wanted to kill. And in fact, and this is what I had to ask them, he once killed a deer as it was crossing a stream. So it was helpless. It was stuck, right? Mm-hmm. And he got the deer after he shot it, didn't even bother to field dress it, and instead brought it home and gutted it in the yard for fun. So he basically went home and chopped it up. And I think massacre.
After a certain time, if you don't field dress it immediately, after a certain time, the meat becomes bad.
And that's what I had to ask my students, Jen.
And you cannot eat the meat.
Yes,
so
you have to take out the internal organs because that's what goes bad first and will damage the
quickly.
Meat.
Yes.
It was also said that Thomas Dillon had permanently damaged his hearing because he shot guns so often. Again, I asked my students this, and they're like, that would be a whole... that would have to be... you could do some damage, but it would have to be an extreme amount, I guess, with no ear protection. So totally doable, I guess. I don't really know much about it.
If he's killed 500 things, and then he just randomly... in college would take out a gun to shoot, I could see that happening.
Yeah, I could.
Guns are loud.
I know they are.
Thank you, like Captain Obvious. I know, but yeah.
Now,
I could see that happening.
The investigators have a potential suspect. So they went about trying to tie him to the evidence that they had gathered so far. Digging in doesn't take long. So they revisit and they locate a witness who had stated that he had seen a red Toyota pickup, which happens to be what he drives, by the way, near the area where a dog had just been shot. A .25 caliber slug was removed from the dog. Now, here's the interesting part about all the things that are going to nab you. Thank God for this dog. That's all I got to say about that. Fry had confirmed earlier during his interview that Dillon did own a .25 caliber rifle, and he did like to shoot guns. He did like to shoot animals, especially dogs or cats, pets. So police, with that hunch, took the caliber slug from the dog and they ran some ballistic test on it. And guess what? It was a match. Yes.
Well, imagine that.
Right? You go, doggo. Detectives reached out to local licensed federal firearms dealers to inquire what records there were on Dillon and the guns he had purchased in the past. The purchase history indicated that Dillon had bought at least 18 weapons in the last couple of years, and 2 of these guns were Mausers, which just happened to be the type of weapon that he used to kill 4 of the 5 men. Please take a look at his criminal record, see if they can find anything that would, send up a red flag there. They learned that in 1969, Thomas Dillon had been investigated for possessing a Russian mortar military weapon. Now, charges were not filed at that time because the authorities believed the weapon was more of a collector's gun than something that you would use to actually kill somebody or harm somebody. Little did they know. Yeah. In August 1991, Dillon had been cited by a game warden for illegal target practice near a state hunting area in southern Stark County. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
You know what he's practicing? Somebody, more people got away, thank God.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
After officers searched his truck, the warden seized a .22 caliber pistol with a silencer. Dillon later pleaded guilty to possessing an illegal silencer and was released on bond on the condition that he not possess any firearms in the future.
Oh.
He was awaiting final sentencing at this time, right? When they're looking all this up, he was still
he was still in the middle of that charge. Okay,
there you go. Yes, I didn't word that very well. It's pretty obvious at this time, Jen, that Tom Dillon was looking more and more like the guilty party, the suspect. So the task force kicks in and begins surveilling him in October of 1992. On November 8th, they got to see what Dillon liked to do: a shooting spree. He shot at stop signs, electric meters, oil well pumps. He even pulled up next to an empty car and threw a rock through the car window. What?
He's charming.
Just stupid vandalism. Whatever.
Did his wife know he did all this?
No. Not that I could find anywhere, but he is a hunter, so I'm gonna go out hunting. Okay, Like, that's your hobby, you know?
Yeah,
you
but you don't hunt stop signs. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, but who says he did that? You know, I mean, she wouldn't know that unless she was with them.
I know, but...
The stuff that I read, and I didn't even include it in here, is that he was pretty abusive to her and beat her, and he was abusive to his son and beat his son, too. But I only found that one place. But, thank you. It is now November 11th, and investigators were informed about several cows that had been killed. This time, however, they were killed using a crossbow. Huh. Authorities once again called Richard Fry, and they asked them, hey, buddy, can you kind of help us out here? And, you know, they kind of run past what they're thinking, that these cows were killed by a crossbow, and they need him to actually do a favor for them. Could he please go see Dylan and maybe snatch a couple of those arrows that Dylan used with his crossbow, right? Mm-hmm. Fry says, no problem. Goes to his house, sneaks a couple of those, lifts them, you know, whatever. And guess what?
There was blood on them from cows?
No, they were a match. They were the same kind of arrow.
Oh.
Same kind of arrow, which, I mean, that doesn't prove anything exactly, but it is telling, right?
It's, circumstantial, but it works.
So on November 21st, 1992, the task force followed Dylan to New Philadelphia. Again, not Old Philadelphia, Jen, New Philadelphia, where Dylan attended a gun show. Now, this is not against the law, right, to go to the gun show.
No.
However, Jen, the .22 caliber gun he bought there was against the law since it violated his bond with that previous gun and silencer ordeal he had a little bit ago he was still waiting on, right?
Right.
So technically, this is enough for authorities to nab him. But the problem is that they had not really tied him. Yeah, they hadn't really positively tied him to any of the deaths of the men, the outdoorsmen that were killed. They faced a little quandary here, and that was if they let him go in hopes of being able to tie him to those deaths, there's also the possibility that he would get out and actually kill another person. So it's fall, and that means one thing, Jen, deer season. Lots of hunters are going to be walking around in the woods, and that would allow Tom Dillon a lot of opportunities to strike again. So investigators are kind of like, what do we do? Do we go ahead and nab him on this, and we're not going to be able to hold him for very long, or do we kind of keep stalking him surveilling him, rather?
Try to catch him in the act.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they decide they really cannot take that chance, okay? So on November 27th, 1992, they decide to arrest Tom Dillon. Now, this is just 3 days before deer season opened in Ohio that year. I think they were pretty sure.
Somebody life. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they were pretty sure that,
Well, wouldn't you rather mistake on the side of saving somebody's life than...
Yeah, but I think, it was the right thing to do. Let's just put it that way. Police search Dillon's house along with his truck, and they come up empty-handed. There's nothing. They cannot find anything that would tie him to any of those murders. At his bond hearing, prosecutors would state that Thomas Dillon was the prime suspect in the unsolved murders of the 5 men in Ohio. With that admission, the media came out of the woodwork.
Of course
now,
they did.
They were like, what? Say what? Because, he had just been arrested on purchasing a gun when he's not supposed to have one. Not this. So that's a big shocker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, all of this media hoopla again brought forth a man. And this man said that he had bought and I can't even do this. There's a bunch of numbers there, and if you know guns, I'm sure you know what it means, but I don't, so I'm not even going to say it. But it was a Swedish Mauser rifle from Dillon at a gun show on April 6th. That rifle would turn out to test positive for the bullets that were used on Gary Bradley and Claude Hawkins. Talk about, you're selling a gun that you used on somebody. Does that never occur to them, I guess? I don't...
Well, they've got to get rid of it.
Yeah, I guess that's it. But that's just so creepy.
It's very creepy.
It's almost like the trophy keeping of the serial killer. You're purposely letting that gun go into someone else's hands so that you're not caught. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, and it makes sense for the killer's point of view. But, I don't think it's as common. I mean, when you're buying a gun, I don't think you're thinking...
I guess at a gun show, but don't those go through anything? Don't they check them? Or can you just go to a gun show and...
You can go to the gun show, and it depends on the state. Right. But mostly at gun shows, you can buy and sell without, the 3-day waiting period, if there is one.
Oh, really? Ooh.
Yeah, you don't have to. Yeah, that's why
So with
there's
this
big
new
debates on that stuff. Mm-hmm.
That's awful. With this new information, on January 22nd, 1993, Thomas Dillon was indicted on 2 counts of aggravated murder by a grand jury in Noble County, Ohio. The charge carried with it, and this always just interests me, I tell you what, the charge carried with it the possibility of the death penalty. Dillon's bond was set at $1 million. Now, that death penalty is what's going to throw him, right? And this happens to so many killers, like BTK. Like, that was part of his deal, too. They're so scared of the death penalty, yet you go on killing people all the time. You know what I mean?
Chicken shit. I know.
I don't get it. While in jail, Dillon was placed on watch after strips of blankets were found in his cell. He claimed that he wore these to cover his eyes so that he could sleep at night. But he later told a mental health counselor that he would strangle inmates if he had the chance and he wouldn't shed a tear. So he had taken his blanket, I guess, and made like little, I would say shards, but I guess it's more like strips of blanket.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, that's
to use as a weapon to kill other people.
Yes, exactly.
Charming. Mm-hmm.
On February 9th, 1993, Dillon pleaded not guilty to murder charges in the deaths of Gary Bradley and Claude Hawkins. A third murder charge was filed against Dillon on May 22nd, 1993, and that would be the aggravated murder of Jamie Paxton. Dillon was sentenced to 3 years and 10 months in prison, the maximum on the unrelated federal firearm charges, the one that he was in trouble for buying the gun when he was not supposed to be buying a gun, right?
Right.
But before he could be tried for the 3 capital murders, Dillon placed a call from the jail. This is where we go back to the attention-seeking behavior, right? Mm-hmm. He places a call to a reporter at WTOV, and it's January 3rd, 1993, and he confesses to the murders. A similar call had been placed to an Akron Beacon Journal reporter. He went on to say that he said, "I have major problems. I'm crazy. I want to kill. I want to kill."
So is he trying to get the insanity plea then by doing that? Or he just wants the attention?
I think it's attention because he's just, you'll see.
Because remember, when he wrote the letter to Paxton, he said that he heard voices that he needed to.
I just think he liked killing, but that's just me.
Well, I'm sure he did.
The following day, Dillon's attorneys put together a plea bargain in which Dillon would confess to all 3 murders on the guarantee he would not receive the death penalty. Mm-hmm. And with that, part of that plea agreement meant that no further charges would be brought against him. Dude, I swear. I could punch him in the face.
No. That plea's stupid. I don't like it. Change it up. Rewrite it.
You're making 3 families happy, but what about the other ones?
I know. It's all or nothing, dude. That's how I feel. No.
As Thomas Dillon stood before Judge John Naw on July 12, 1993 to enter his plea, he did so with no remorse for what he did. He answered guilty to each charge, and under the plea agreement, Dillon was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for up to 165 years.
Is he still in prison?
Here's my little angel, my little superhero, my new favorite person in the world, Jean Paxton. Jamie Paxton's mother said that she was relieved that it was finally over, but was upset about the fact that Dillon showed no remorse for killing her son as well as the others. Jean said, "We were given a life sentence the day he decided to kill our son. I think he's a pathetic coward. He's taken the coward's way out of everything." You go, Jean. Golf clap, Jean. Love her.
True. She's not.
Gets better.
She's not wrong.
Well, Jen, it's here that you'd think the story would end because, he's been sentenced and the mother of the victim had her say, right? But this is where I say that Jean Paxton, again, is my hero. She is my superhero. You see, it was only the following night. That means, like 24 hours later.
Yeah.
The Paxton house phone rings. And it was none other than
after her letter?
His sentencing.
Oh, okay.
24 hours after sentencing.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
The Paxton house phone rings, and it's none other than Thomas Dillon. It seems that Tommy's widow feelings were getting hurt. He would tell Jean that her pathetic coward comment had hurt him. He called her to tell her that. Are you kidding me? It hurt him. You hurt my son. You killed him. Are you kidding
deep,
me?
Tom. I'm so sorry, Tom. Wow. What'd she say to that? Did she hang up?
No, I love her. She didn't back down, and she told him, well, that is exactly what you are, Thomas. And if you start with your cocky attitude, I will hang up. I've heard enough of that for the past several months. I'm not interested in what you have to say, but there are a few things that I want to know. Thomas, have you ever heard the expression, tears are the safety valve of the heart?
She threw that mother right in his face, didn't she?
Right. Thomas Dillon had said that he had not ever heard that. So she talked about repentance and prayer. And she says, which I love her because this is such a mom thing, quit your profanity, stop the loopy simpering in front of the camera, and pick up your Bible before it's too late.
Ooh.
We have spoken long enough. I can't hate you, but I can never forgive you for what you've done to our lives. Dillon would write to Jean 2 more times. And at the end, he offered $1,000, like the gall of this guy, offer $1,000 to erect a monument where Jamie was killed, or they could use that money to establish a scholarship in Jamie Paxton's name.
No. Yeah.
What?
Sorry. A little too late, sweetheart.
Jean Paxton, thank God, told him, I don't need a monument up to remind me of what happened. All he wanted was to glorify himself. And I told him I would never want anyone to receive a scholarship from a murderer. At that point, I wrote him that we no longer have anything to talk about. I never heard any more from him after that.
Wow.
I love her, right? Like, is she amazing or what?
She's fantastic, but the cojones on him, I cannot...
That's what, that now you know what I mean about, like, I think it was all for attention in that earlier part, right? Him responding to the letter to the newspaper and things like that.
Yeah. Wow.
So speaking of other acts of vandalism, Jen, that you mentioned earlier, it seems like you're almost psychic today or something. In July 1993, Dillon admitted to setting 160 fires and committing other acts of vandalism in eastern Ohio during the preceding 5 years. Noble County Sheriff Landon Smith estimated that Dillon's fires caused more than $2 million in damages. The fires were set in, I'm not going to say all these names, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different counties in and around Ohio. They're all like counties in Ohio. Dillon pleaded with authorities not, this is my girl, ready? Mm-hmm. Dillon pleaded with authorities not to be sent to Ohio's toughest facility, the maximum security prison in Lucasville, in November 1993. And he said, if I go to Lucasville, I'm a dead man. When news of this comment reached my superhero, Jean Paxton, she collected 8,000 names on a petition, and Dillon was sent to Lucasville.
Go for her.
But that's not all she did. Oh my God, I love her.
He's such a big man behind those guns.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm. So after all this was said and done, Thomas Dillon's wife decided, you know what? She wants to make a little money off this murder. So she attempted to sell his story to Hollywood, and she was meeting with Hollywood producers, and it was going to be bought. Well, my superhero Jean was like, oh, hell no. No, it is not. She contacted Ohio State Senator Bob Ney. Together, they created and passed the Paxton Bill, which barred killers or their relatives from profiting from their crimes.
I see. I thought that was already the Son of Sam law.
And it depends. Certain states, this is what I learned too. Certain states have it in play. Certain states did not at this time. I'm not sure if everybody does now. Because I had to look this up because let me say, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I tried to look up the Paxton Bill. Well, guess what everything was about? The actor Bill Paxton, who died. And I was like, okay. So then I had to keep going in different ways to try to figure out, like, you know, and so I was like, the bill that prohibits it, and then all the Son of Sam laws came up and all that. So, yeah.
Wow.
And our story ends there, thank God. In October 2011, 61-year-old Thomas Dillon died of natural causes while in prison at the medical facility. And let me just state here.
I wonder what medical reason it was, like cancer?
It said natural causes.
At 61, maybe heart attack, I guess.
I don't know. But, I mean, I just think about little Jamie Paxton, right? He was only 21, and this loser lived to 61.
Not
fair. Nope. So that's my story today, Jen. And let me just say I love Jean Paxton. And this is what I meant by, like, taking...
Yeah, she's pretty awesome.
You know what I mean? Like, she made, like, look at the difference she made. A lot.
Yeah.
You know, for little young Jamie.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I could just hear Nico there.
This is just one of those things where sometimes I get sick of hearing myself talk because I tend to say the same things, but this is what goes through my head. Like when you're out going deer hunting, you're thinking about killing a deer. You're thinking about deer sausage, deer steak, little deer stew maybe.
Okay,
you're not thinking about some random dude with a gun that's just going to open fire, you know?
Well, I do believe that you take caution for other hunters, so you're always aware that there are other people in the woods that could kill you, but I don't think that anywhere, even if it's hunting, you don't...
I mean, serial killer, though. That's what I'm saying, like the serial killer.
But the guy was hunting, or the one guy was jogging. When you go out, you don't think that somebody could just...
a serial killer's going to get
at you. Yeah. Which, it's probably a good thing, because then we'd be shut-ins. We wouldn't want to leave it all.
You know I'm a chicken. So
I know you are. But... Oh, I knows it.
Whatever.
I know that. Wow.
Anyway.
And it is amazing about how all these big bad killers get a little weepy when the death penalty is mentioned, isn't it?
Right. So
I wonder what profilers say about that. I just wonder what they...
Well, I'm like, my God, like, how bad is that? It's the death penalty. You put these people to death with nothing. At least you get to say goodbye. You get a last meal. You get to give everyone your well wishes before you go. These poor people that are murdered in cold blood, they didn't get a goodbye. They didn't get I'm going to die in 6 months, so I'm going to do my best to live it up now. You know? Well, shame on them.
But he was fascinated by death. He loved killing. So I wonder what was in his psyche that he was scared to death of death.
He got his feelings hurt, though.
Where
he called her to say, you hurt my feelings.
Yeah, that's a male ego thing.
What a jerk.
Yeah, he's something. I can't say that I'm sorry to know that he has obituaries available to be read, so.
It's true. And let me just say, I said this a little bit earlier, but I was listening to one of my podcasts I like, Dan Zupansky, True Murder, right? And he was talking about, it's a new book that came out about BTK. And maybe it's been a long time since I've listened to that, but there was a few things that I did not realize that was new to me, I think. But one of them was that he was adamant that he did not want the death penalty. And another one was that every time he had a kill in his mind, he named it like
I didn't know that.
A plan. Yeah, me neither.
He had a plan,
so,
plan.
He would name them like, FBI, you know, how Operation Maneuver. Like he would do that. But if you want to listen to Dan Zupansky, here, I'm going to give you the title because it was pretty good. Like I said, it was interesting to me because it was new. I mean, that information and some of the other stuff. Like I said, maybe I knew that he named his kills. Like, so sort of like this guy with the guns, the fascination of the buildup is part of it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That was the same thing with this guy. So he would, BTK, I mean, he would like stalk them out, give them names and things like that. Unholy Messenger. And that is the December 10th of last year. So just like a month ago, episode from True Murder. So if you want to check that out, it's pretty good about the BTK guy. And stuff like that.
And this was the new book, The Unholy?
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting.
Unholy Messenger, The Life and Crimes of the BTK Serial Killer, a book by Stephen Singular.
Singular, yep, and Joyce.
Wow.
That's my recommended listening for you people if you want.
And recommended reading. Recommended reading.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Looks like you can buy it on Amazon or wherever books are sold.
And actually they said to read it first and then read Carrie Rawson, his daughter,
right.
BTK's daughter, read that after because they go nicely together because one is sort of from a lot of the pastor's perspective. Then of course Carrie is more from his, being the daughter of Dennis Rader.
I can't imagine having to live with the fact that your father is an infamous serial killer. That would be horrible.
Right?
Strong woman to even go out and speak about it,
I think you'd have to.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it would end up eating you alive if you didn't. I think you would have to get that out there.
Oh, but
anyway, that's it, Jen.
All right. That was great. I enjoyed that.
Thanks. Hey, and remember, Jen.
What?
Lock your doors.
I keep passing by those open windows.
Bye-bye.
Love ya.
Today's episode was researched and written by me, Cam. For more information about this episode, as well as all the sources I used, please check out our show notes or the podcast website at ourtruecrimepodcast.com. Our True Crime Podcast is developed and created by hosts Jen and Cam. Original music and audio mix of all our True Crime Podcast episodes is courtesy of Nico Vertesi from We Talk of Dreams. Listener discretion is provided by Edward October from October Pod VHS. Our True Crime Podcast is executive produced by Nico Vertesi and Dick Vane. Make sure to like and subscribe to Our True Crime Podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. We can be reached on Instagram and Facebook at Our True Crime Podcast or on Twitter at Our True Crime Pod. You can email us at ourtruecrimepodcast@gmail.com. If you really like the show, make sure to check out our Patreon at Our True Crime Podcast. Our True Crime Podcast is an OTC production. She begins a letter writing campaign, sending the letters to, she starts
a letter writing campaign.
Yes, thank you. And I put the wrong word here and then I was trying to fix it, but whatever. Okay. So Jamie Paxton, well, you know what I mean. You can cut, you know what, we need to get shirts that say, you can cut that out, Nico. We really should. You can cut that out, Nico. Because if you listened, you know, whatever. Okay. The police, with Gene's determination, right? I think it's funny.
Especially for Nico. I think.
Yeah. He thinks it's hilarious, but then if you ever listen to our outtakes and stuff, people would get it too. Plus, everybody knows that we love Nico, and he's our number 3, right?
He's our number 1.
Well, he's part of the squad. All right, here we go. The police.
The main squad.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say main squeeze. I was like, you perv. Okay, sorry.
No.
Oh, God. Muskingum. Muskingum. It's M-U-S-K. Musk. I-N-G-U-M.
Muskingum?
Muskingum. I'm going to go with that. That sounds good.
Muskingum.
Yeah. Well, was that right then?
Muskingum.
Oh, Lord.
Muskingum.
I swear to God, we should just have like a sound effect thing that does that, right? All right, we're going to go back to that last sentence there, Nico.
Okay. Muskingum.
A call came into, okay, I'm going to need help with this word. Tuscarawas. You want to look it up for me? T-U-S. Tuscarawas. I don't even know.
T-U-S.
C-A-R-A-W-A-S. Tuscarawas. Lord.
Tuscarawas.
Yeah. Tuscarawas. Look at you go, girl.
Tuscarawas.
That's almost 2 for you. Tuscarawas. Is that right? Tuscarawas.
Yep, Tuscarawas. Like, if you want to say Tuscarawas, but don't have the Tuscarawas.
I'm going to think of that always.
Tuscarawas.
Okay, here we go. The media push worked, and on August 26, 1992, a call came into the Tuscarawas.
Sorry.
Tuscarawas.
It sounds like you
I know, but now I
impediment.
I know.
It must be an Indian word. It has to be an Indian word.
Native American.
Okay,
sorry.